Is Draymond a fake tough guy? Is he calculated?
Meaning, what does that mean?
That means that he is very good at engaging.
Maybe he just hasn't. I think what Kmart is saying is that he hasn't started something with the wrong person. For instance, do you remember when Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, went against Zach Randolph and was trying that with Zach Randolph, and Zach Randolph said, "I put fear in the bullies." He picked on the wrong one, because DeMarcus used to go after just about everyone, but he wouldn't go after Zach Randolph, right? And I think that's what Kmart is saying. Like, you're not going after the real tough. You're not going after all the...
Draymond Green just had the biggest slip-up of his entire career, and it had nothing to do with basketball. One word he said on a podcast instantly turned a normal conversation into a serious showdown. Now, two of the NBA's toughest players are caught in a heated feud, with former stars choosing sides and old locker room stories suddenly coming back to life. This isn't just social media noise. It's a battle of ego and pride, and neither guy is willing to step back.
He did get suspended a lot.
He got suspended a lot. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated and said flagrant flyer because he was flagrant fouling people. Who else does that sound like? Draymond, right? Y'all are very, very similar. You are both at your peak, elite defenders. So please stop arguing. Neither of you guys are going to win this argument. You guys are not going to win it. You both are some of the greatest I've ever seen. You both are a little different, all right? But just know this, Dre, I will respect Kenyon because I fought him in a locker room, right? Because we were chirping back and
do that.
Because I'm crazy too. I'm just a different type of crazy as these two. But I'm just saying, Dre, if he would fight Tracy McGrady and he would fight Karl Malone and he would fight damn near anyone in the NBA, and I saw him do and talk to everyone that way, you and him would have fought. And that's kind of what Kenyon liked. And you would have been okay with it. But make no mistake, if you would have tried to talk to him like you've talked to other players, that would have never been allowed. I watched it for multiple years. That was not allowed. And you would have still did it and y'all would have fought. That's the only thing that I'm telling you, that's factual. And Kenyon, I'm going to express to you, Draymond is special. He's annoying because all the things you don't like about yourself, you see in him, right? He's annoying. He is the most important defender of this generation. Draymond is. So stop disrespecting each other. Start to support each other and squash this. Because y'all both a little different, but what y'all both accomplished is game changing. Kenyon took a franchise with no relevance and took them to the finals based off of his defense. And once he left, they have not been to the conference finals since. That shows who he is, and it's very similar.
Everything started when Kenyon Martin appeared on Gil's Arena and dropped a direct shot at Draymond Green. He didn't just question Draymond's game, he went after his toughness. Martin called him soft, saying Draymond only starts problems with players he knows won't swing back. In NBA terms, that's one of the deepest insults you can throw. You can call a guy overrated or lucky, but calling him soft crosses a line. And Draymond definitely wasn't letting that slide. Not when it came from another Saginaw guy. Both of them grew up in the same Michigan environment where loyalty is a big deal. Draymond always believed that hometown players looked out for each other, not tried to humiliate each other on a podcast for attention. So when Kenyon used that word, Draymond took it to heart, and he took it personally. Soon after, Draymond fired back on the Draymond Green show with a brutal response. He called Kenyon an underachiever, saying a #1 overall pick should have more to show for his career. Only one All-Star appearance, no championships, and not a single all-defensive selection. Draymond made it clear, even if he retired today, he believes his career easily outshines Kenyon's. That's when things escalated fast. Kenyon jumped on Instagram Live ready to answer everything. He reminded everyone that he helped take the Nets to the NBA Finals in his second season, something only a handful of legends like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, and Elgin Baylor ever did that early in their careers. He wanted people to know that he was in elite company. Then he hit Draymond with a stat that shook the internet. Draymond has more games scoring 0 points, 46, then games scoring 20 or more 44. Fans went wild. Kenyon's point was simple: you're calling me an underachiever, but you're the one disappearing on offense. Yes, Draymond has rings, but Kenyon argued he earned his respect through battles, not by playing next to superstar teammates. That's when NBA legends stepped in, and everything exploded even more. Reggie Miller, a Hall of Famer who knows real toughness, spoke up on the Dan Patrick Show. He said he understood exactly what Kenyon meant when he called Draymond a fake tough guy. Then Reggie brought up an example everyone instantly recognized. He reminded fans of the moment when DeMarcus Cousins tried to confront Zach Randolph. Cousins was known for barking at players and trying to intimidate them, but when he tried it with Zebo, it didn't work. Randolph didn't move, didn't react. He just looked Cousins in the eyes and said the famous line, "I put fear in the bullies." After that, Cousins never challenged him again. Reggie used that story to explain Kenyon's point about Draymond. In their view, Draymond only plays the tough guy role with players who won't hit back. He talks loud, pushes, and throws sneaky shots, but always chooses his targets carefully. According to Kenyon and now Reggie, Draymond knows exactly who to challenge and who to avoid.
I'm going to lead into Draymond. Kenyon was so elite, we never went to the finals again without him. We never went to another conference finals. We went to multiple playoffs. We never went to another conference. Obviously, Kenyon had, I think, the knee surgery, the microfracture. So he was a good player, but never the ability to be a great player, in my opinion. I love you, Kenyon, but that's just the true after the knee surgery. But Kenyon was that dude. Now, Draymond, part of the reason why many months ago I said, Draymond, you are the most important defender of this generation. And that's based off of my knowledge of Kenyon Martin. That's my knowledge of Kenyon Martin and what he would do, right? That's why in Golden State, if they lose you, right, it's a problem. Same way when we lost Kenyon, we never went to a conference finals. Now, to Kenyon's point, Dre, I love you to death. Kenyon, he was a little different up there, right? There's that Ron Artest, there's that Kenyon Martin gene, right? Where it's like, hey, you don't want them to see red. You don't want those Bulls to see red. I personally don't believe that if you two were on the court at the exact same time and you were being Draymond and he was being Kenyon, if this was 2004, Dre, you would have had some issues. If it was 2020, I think the dynamic is different. It's not allowed to get that way. If you were playing with Kenyon, because I watched him club Karl Malone, I watched him club Tracy McGrady, and part of the reason why I got the start, or they traded Keith Van Horn, is because every time Kenyon would get suspended, and it was a lot, I would get to start. I would become the starting small forward. So that's what I'm expressing, is that if you, and this is not saying that Draymond, you would have talked how you talked, because that's who you are. But if you would have talked like that to Kenyon in 2004, when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated with his chest out saying badass yellow boy, and the NBA told him he had to stop showing that tattoo when he would dunk on people, y'all would have fought 100%. I saw him. Y'all would have fought 100%.
Miller didn't sugarcoat anything. He said straight out that Draymond never goes after the truly tough players. And coming from him, that meant something. Reggie Miller played in an era where toughness wasn't an act, it was real. He went up against the bad boy Pistons, battled guys like Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley, players who played physical and didn't apologize for it. So when Reggie backed up Kenyon's criticism, it wasn't some retired player rant. It carried real credibility. But then things took a turn nobody saw coming. Richard Jefferson jumped into the conversation. On his Road Trippin' podcast, he aimed his comments at both Draymond and Kenyon, and what he said shocked fans because he actually shared locker rooms with both of them. He saw their personalities up close, watched tempers flare, and even admitted that he once got into an actual fight with Kenyon back in their New Jersey days. Think about that. RJ, one of the calmest players of his generation, throwing hands with Kenyon Martin. That alone shows how intense Kenyon was at that time. Jefferson started by giving Kenyon major respect. He said that when Kenyon entered the league in 2000 as the #1 pick, still recovering from a serious college injury, he immediately transformed the Nets culture. The team was expected to be at the bottom of the standings, but once Jason Kidd arrived and Kenyon locked down the interior, everything changed. The Nets took over the East, shocked the league, and made the NBA Finals. RJ called Kenyon one of the best defenders he ever played with. Physically gifted, loud, fearless, and constantly pressuring the opponent. Kenyon could guard point guards and centers with the same intensity. And at that time, big men weren't just tall, they were giants. Shaq, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, the strongest players in the league lived in the paint. Kenyon was smaller than most of them, but he never backed off and always held his ground. Jefferson reminded everyone that those Nets teams reached the finals in 2002 and 2003 with the #1 defense in the entire league, and Kenyon was the foundation of that defense. Yet he never made an all-defensive team. RJ said voters ignored him because his stats didn't jump out like Ben Wallace or KG, and a few suspensions made the narrative worse. But anyone who actually watched those games knew Kenyon was the defensive engine of that roster. Then Jefferson dropped the piece of information that stunned both sides of the argument. He said that both Kenyon and Draymond had gone to anger management at some point. According to him, the same fire that makes them great players is also the thing that gets them in trouble. Their intensity can change a game, but when they lose control, everything falls apart. And that's the part people don't want to talk about. RJ said he wasn't even surprised that things got this heated. In his words, those two just don't mix. They're built differently, both emotional, both driven, both dominant, but not built to get along. Then he delivered the line that blew up the internet. Jefferson looked straight into the camera and said, "Dre, if this was 2004 and you talked to Kenyon the way you talk to players now, we would have fought, no question."
This message is to Kenyon and Draymond only. I'm going to talk about both of you guys to you guys. Kenyon, or first of all, Draymond. Let me talk about Kenyon first. Kenyon was, and I know you know this. This is how I'm going to talk about both of you guys. Kenyon was maybe the most elite defender, physically, communication-wise, intensity, all the things. That's who Kenyon was. Kenyon showed up. He had a chance at Rookie of the Year, but was coming off a major injury, was still the #1 pick. That's how dominant he was in high school or in college. And when I got there and I was a defender, Kenyon was so elite defensively. The Nets were picked to finish second to last. Go ahead. Now it was 25 years ago. We were picked to finish second to last in our conference. We led the conference start to finish and went to the finals. And that was because, in my opinion, of obviously Jason Kidd was our Steph Curry. But Kenyon Martin.
RJ didn't stop there. He said he'd actually seen Kenyon square up with Karl Malone and Tracy McGrady during games. It didn't matter if you were a rookie or a future Hall of Famer. If you crossed Kenyon, he reacted instantly. Jefferson even joked that half of his early starts came from all the times Kenyon got suspended, because it happened that often. Kenyon played with pure intensity, emotional, fearless, and completely unfiltered. RJ reminded everyone that Kenyon once landed on the cover of Sports Illustrated with a headline "Flagrant Flyer," which summed up his reputation perfectly. The league even told him to chill out with his "Yellow Boy" tattoo celebration after dunks because it sparked too much chaos on the court. That's how powerful his presence was. He didn't just play basketball, he charged through it. RJ's message cut straight to the point. Draymond can flash his 4 rings, his Defensive Player of the Year trophy, and his resume all he wants, but if this rivalry happened in Kenyon's prime, the outcome wouldn't look anything like today. RJ said clearly that if Draymond talked to Kenyon back then the way he talks now, it would have turned into a physical confrontation right there on the floor. No long arguments, no podcast debates. Just the kind of conflict the old NBA didn't shy away from. Today's league doesn't allow things to go that far anymore, but in 2004, it would have escalated immediately. And that's why fans are now completely split, asking the same question: who's really winning this feud? Kenyon came at Draymond with facts instead of emotion. He reminded everyone that he helped take a team to the NBA Finals in just his second year, something only a handful of all-time greats have ever done. During his All-Star season, he put up nearly 17 points and 10 rebounds a game, and he lasted 15 seasons despite dealing with injuries, all without playing next to a once-in-a-generation scorer like Stephen Curry. That point hit a nerve because critics have wondered for years what Draymond's career would look like without Steph. If Curry wasn't there, would Draymond still have 4 championships? Would he even have one? That became Kenyon's angle. Draymond is a system player who landed in the perfect situation. Kenyon even recited Draymond's career averages: 8.7 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 5.6 assists, saying those numbers look more like a solid role player than a superstar. To press the argument further, Kenyon listed 50 power forwards he believes were better than Draymond. The list included the legends: Giannis, AD, Dirk, Barkley, KG, Duncan, Malone, Bosh, but also players like Amare Stoudemire and Chris Webber. His message was clear: if you judge talent, not trophies, Draymond isn't in his top 50. And surprisingly, some people agreed. Paul Pierce jumped in on his No Fouls Given podcast and sent the internet into a frenzy. He said that if you watched both players on TV without knowing their awards, Kenyon would simply look like the better player. Pierce acknowledged Draymond's accomplishments, but argued that Kenyon had more natural skill. Then he took it even further, saying that if you swapped Draymond for Kenyon on those Warriors title teams, Golden State still wins 4 championships. Fans lost their minds. Pierce's reasoning was simple. The Warriors needed toughness and elite defense, and Kenyon had both in huge amounts. In his eyes, Kenyon could have filled Draymond's role, maybe even exceeded it. But before things got too one-sided, Jeff Teague stepped in to defend Draymond. Teague wasn't having any of the stats-only comparisons. He said anyone judging Draymond by points and rebounds doesn't understand how basketball really works. To him, Draymond is the definition of a team-first player, someone who gives up his own numbers to make everyone around him better. Teague said Draymond runs the Warriors' defense, sets up the offense, and serves as the emotional spark that keeps the team connected. And he wasn't lying. When Draymond isn't on the floor, the Warriors often look lost. But when he's locked in, the whole system clicks. He's out there directing switches, setting brutal screens, making the extra pass, and doing all the little things nobody else wants to do. You can't measure that with traditional stats. That kind of leadership only shows up when you watch the game closely.
Kenyon Martin, guard 1 through 5. We could switch 1 through 4 with Jason Kidd and him. He could guard 1 through 5. He's skinny. He's a skinny boy. So the same toughness of being undersized and having to go against Alonzos and Tim Duncans and those dudes, Kenyon was very similar to you, Draymond, as an individual that would fight against people. Kenyon Martin was both of y'all have been to anger management, and rightfully so. Both of you guys have. And I've played with both of you, and you both need it, and it's also both of your guys' superpower, that intensity. That intensity is both of your guys' superpower, so I'm not surprised that 2 alphas in this space don't get along. I will not disrespect Draymond and all of his accomplishments, but I'm sure is not going to disrespect Kenyon and his ability. He was a one-time All-Star, but think about it. He has no all-defensive team, I don't believe, but he helmed the number 1 defense from my first year and my second year, our 2 NBA Finals years, right? Our 2 NBA Finals years. He helmed the number 1 defense. He was the center. He was the 2. He was guarding every position. He was that dude. While he should have, in my opinion, it was maybe his rebounding numbers weren't high enough because you had the Ben Wallaces, you had those Dikembes. How are you not on an all defensive team in Kenyon's defense unless you know, or if you're running those 2 top defenses, you should be on the all defensive team. Now, let me say this about Kenyon. We went to 2 NBA Finals. We were tied 2-2 with Tim Duncan and the Spurs. Obviously, we lost to Shaq and them. We won 10 straight in the postseason back in 2002. 10 straight in the postseason, Dre. You know how hard that is. That's intensity, that's focus, that's locked in. 10 straight. Then we followed up. And we swept the Knicks the next year. So we won 14 straight games versus our conference. That was the defensive intensity that Kenyon held. Obviously, Jake Kidd was the dude. He was the all defensive guy. Kenyon should have been